Greetings YouTube! Everything's changed. Everything's changed. Instead of that really long desk that used to span literally the width of this room and used to make me do an Igor impersonation by leaning on it, now that's gone. All the loose crap that used to be just coating it widthways is now cunningly concealed inside this new storage unit behind all my games. Yes, there is crap behind all this because storage space. I've got a new desk now, and this is a sit-stand desk, so I can sit at it or I can wind the lever down here to very slowly raise it up, and I am exaggerating how fast it moves doing that. I like the idea of being able to clear this desk finally so I can do computer, video game work, whatever, but I can clear it off and do some of my arts and crafts with paper, cardboard, cloth, whatever, my sewing machine, etc. And I can also clear everything off to do possibly some of my drawing, practice it a little bit more, because I want to kind of bring that a little bit more into my channel, or at all in fact, because I don't bring it into the channel. I would like to do that. I'm not very competent at it though, so that's not going to happen for now. Anyhow, I would thought that I would celebrate this momentous occasion by ripping the video game industry a new arsehole, because it's been a fun last 2 weeks. It's been fun for someone. First up, of course, Activision shareholders have voted to keep paying CEO Bobby Kotick more fucking money than God. Now, of course, at this point, it's very tempting to point out that only 54% of the shareholders actually voted to keep the shithead in the current pay situation. But for two things. First of all, they actually did vote with a slim majority to keep him in his present pay situation. And secondly, of course, the shareholder vote is more symbolic than anything else. You see, despite the fact that the chief wanker actually took a humongous pay cut earlier in the year, and that now he makes less than $1 million per year, he actually makes most of his money off of bonuses. And considering the fact that Activision stock has been going through the roof, especially during the pandemic, he is probably going to make several tens of millions of dollars. A spokesperson for the company said, Mr. Dickhead, the longest tenured CEO of a public technology company, as if that fucking matters, has transformed Activision Blizzard, achieved record results, doubled the value of the company, and delivered more than $45 billion in additional shareholder value since its employment agreement took effect in October 2016. So I imagine off the back of this news, several hundred people are about to be fired. Why not? That's what happened in early 2019. The company posted record profits, and Bobby Kotick himself posted a cool profit for himself, for his own personal bank balance, of course, and then immediately announced 800 people would be laid off. Honestly, he may as well have come out in front of all those people and said, "Thank you for inflating my bank balance, now fuck off." I don't know what a CEO does. I know it stands for Chief Executive Officer, but I don't actually know what it does. I'm pretty sure that he's not directly involved in programming a video game, or recording the sound effects, or making sure that doors work, which is apparently a really complicated process. Obviously, Activision itself is playing up the fact that the board of directors was re-elected with 96% of the votes, which is fantastic, and they approved our say-on-pay proposal, that being Bobby Kotick's pay. But they conveniently leave out the fact that he was only approved with 54%. He was still fucking approved though. We can only dream of the moment when Bobby Kotick is finally cut loose and actually someone just as bad will probably be put in its place, because it's the video game industry, because of course it will. In a beside the point piece of news, Marvel's Avengers temporarily leaked players' IP addresses. It was only temporary. But why the fuck it happened in the first place, I have no idea. Your IP address can apparently be used for all sorts of things, usually most of them involving criminals, so it's a bad thing if other people know your IP address. It's a bit of a giveaway if it's written on screen. Square Enix posted a tweet saying, "We're aware of the issue where a floating string of text," which is a weird way of describing someone's IP address, "appears on the screen and are investigating. Thank you for the reports." Even when a developer fucks up, they somehow manage to find a positive. It looks like this particular issue didn't exist for very long. It probably lasted long enough though to catch some streamers out, fingers crossed. Not too many of them were. It wasn't as if you could put anything over the label on the screen, because apparently your IP address had a nasty habit of floating around the screen and landing in random places. So someone could still capture a screenshot of it by chance. But this has been fixed, no need to panic, until the next fuck up happens. TV style commercials are coming to console games. Okay, maybe they're coming to console games. Apparently there's a company called Player One. Ho ho. And it's described as a first of its kind in-game advertising platform. It better be the fucking last as well. Apparently they've been testing this idea for about a year in the video game Smite, which I haven't played for bloody ages because I didn't like it because it was a MOBA. But they've been playing adverts in them to the players, and if the player watches the advert in its entirety, they get a little in-game bonus, a little present for watching the advert. And naturally, the test run with Smite showed that players were much more likely to play a game and spend money within that game if they watched in-game ads that gave them access to more gaming perks. Well, yeah, sure, if you give people free shit, they're more willing to jump through the hoops you lay out for them. But there's a limit to how far you can push this crap. Only 1 week before this was happening, VR players actually revolted against one of Facebook's in-game advertising plans. VR game Bastion recently opted into Facebook's new advertising program and then quickly opted out again when the community basically detonated the equivalent of a nuclear warhead in their faces. I mean, it's almost as if video gamers don't like it when you interrupt their games with adverts. I mean, phew! After listening to player feedback, we realised that Bastion isn't the best fit for this type of advertising test, said the developer, desperately trying to make it sound like they haven't fucked up. Therefore, we no longer plan to implement the test. I do understand that some video games have adverts in them. And free-to-play games, for example, you kind of expect it, you know? You kind of expect it to pay for the game in some ethereal way, even if it is you forced to sit through 30 seconds of drivel. If that's the payment for a free game, most people are alright with that. Other full-price games, like for example sports or racing games, they have sponsorship logos and full-blown advertisements in the background. But then sports and racing games are usually based on real-world sports and real-world races. Therefore, it's not a complete surprise when they show up in the game. If you turn up in a tennis game, you expect the tennis ball manufacturer's logo to be pasted all over the walls. You expect it, and you don't have to actually look at it. You can look in a different direction. Obviously this VR shit would stop you from looking away from the advert, because you can be damn sure it will always hover in the middle of your face. The particularly annoying thing about this idea about there being full-blown TV style ads is the fact that you're supposed to be playing a video game. It's interactive. You see, you hear as output, but you also input a lot from the controller. And if you're forced to put the controller down for 30 seconds and wait for the TV to finish its tirade about how you need to purchase this particular brand of toothpaste, that's gonna get really fucking annoying. It's annoying enough when menus slow you down. When a menu takes a little bit too long. You know those games where the menus have maybe fancy visual effects as you change pages? Those only slow you down by split seconds. Imagine what it's going to be like with a 30-second advert. Just like the VR Facebook demo, I think that a lot of games who implement this system are going to suddenly find themselves awash with negative 1-star or 0 rating reviews. They are going to get downvoted like fuck. And people are just going to walk away from the developer if they think, you know what, I'm not putting up with this crap. I'm going to go play that video game over there where I don't have to be inundated by a tidal wave of shit every time I hit the save screen or wherever the adverts are going to pop up next. Any developer who tries to do this, I think it's going to be an automatic death sentence for their game and possibly their entire library. And finally, Cyberpunk 2077, according to the developer, is now in a playable state. After 6 months. Seriously, does anyone give a shit anymore? They said the game is finally stable enough that they could focus on updating other parts of the game and not just fixing things all the time. We have also been working on improving the overall quality, which we are also quite happy about. Of course, we also remove bugs and visual glitches, and we will continue to do that. Over time, we will also be introducing improvements to the general game systems that players have highlighted. People who aren't familiar with this particular story might be tempted to point the finger at the developers and say, why did you do this? Except that they actually highlighted to management how fucked the game was before it launched. Management was saying, yeah, the game's great, it was complete, it's ready to go, and the employees were saying, no it bloody isn't, mate. There were also the promises over the fact that the employees wouldn't be forced to crunch, and yet they were. Then there's the fact that the PC version of the game was the only version that could be previewed by reviewers before it released. The console versions, nope, couldn't get a hold of them. The backlash and performance issues were so bad that on the 17th of December, Sony actually pulled the game from the PlayStation Store entirely. You could not buy this game from Sony even if you wanted to. Microsoft, for its part, put a warning label on its storefront telling people it had performance and stability issues. Both Sony and Microsoft issued refunds to people who wanted them that had bought it. Bearing in mind that you usually need a damn good excuse to get a refund for a digital version of the game, Sony has returned Cyberpunk 2077 to the PlayStation Store, but there is a little note down underneath it which clearly says, users continue to experience performance issues with this game. Purchase for use on PS4 systems is not recommended. For the best Cyberpunk experience on PlayStation, play on PS4 Pro and PS5 systems. After reading and listening to all the reports, I'm pretty damn certain that I never saw anywhere even close to the worst that this game had to offer at its absolute rock bottom. Because I was playing on a PS5, I got lucky with being able to pre-order one. And even I encountered issues, mainly just, well, frankly, hilarious visual glitches. Members of the crowd would pop in and out. The car, I summoned the car at one point, it landed on a rooftop, did a backflip, landed on the ground and exploded. I thought it was hysterical. But not everybody clearly thought that. After all the hype and all the promised features, which by the way were not in the game, and I'm kinda hoping that they patch them in at some point, please. After all the issues, I'm really hoping that CD Projekt Red pulls a No Man's Sky, in the sense that the game releases and is massively underwhelming, and they stick with it in the long term and add lots of insanely cool features and build it into the game that they originally promised us. That the game actually not only becomes good, but awesome. That'd be nice. That'd be nice. But let's end on a positive note, shall we? First of all, Ghost of Tsushima might be getting either DLC or a standalone expansion, possibly named Ghost of Ikishima, but that is purely a rumour at this point. No one knows whether it's actually going to happen or is even real. And the other bit of news I couldn't help but notice a while back, Hades is coming to console. The game that pretty much everybody says was Game of the Year is finally going to be playable by everyone that doesn't have a Nintendo Switch, i.e. me. Yes. So that's it for that news broadcast, I suppose. Try to keep up with news again in the future, but it kind of depends whether anything catches me eye. My new setup should make it a bit easier though, because, well, I've got a lot more space to work with, so fingers crossed. See you next time.